ready for takeoff.
We are cleared for takeoff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time to take flight in your community and in your life. This is Audio Airstrike.
Get close to your mic, Brandon. Don't make them tell you again. There's gonna be some furniture moving in here today.
I'm not supposed to laugh.
You know it's gonna go left when I be like, hey man, you'll get your ass over there.
Oh shit.
Oh man. So we sitting over here talking or whatever. We just shooting the crap right now. But you brought up like an excellent point about the two of us.
This is my favorite frenemy-ship that I've ever seen. It's like, you know, two guys that love each other and couldn't live without each other, but they gotta fuss every time they see each other. There's always some bickering. Move the mic this way. Salt and vinegar chips, plain chips, barbecue chips. It's like, I said 11. Oh, I said 11:30. You know, it's like
Move slow.
Be like this.
Too fast.
Right. You're doing the angle this way. No, we're going slow. You want to attack things like a pit bull. Everett, you're being too. No, you want to attack things like a pit bull. This is not how it's going to work. We have to ease into this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
look, but that's kind of duality because I think it balances itself out. Like he'll be like, Everett, look at it from this way. I'll be like, okay, look at it from this way. Then he'll be like, Everett, not everything is about this. I said, Brandon, you a damn fool. You better look at it like this. You better watch out for this, this, and this. So it's really a yin and a yang where it's like, okay, both of us are two different people. We handle things differently, but there's a common respect there to the point it's like, okay, I can tolerate him for 15 years.
Well, you know, it's like Paul and John, you know, and that Beatles documentary that came out. They fussed that whole album, and it's just like, but you got a great album out of it. Sometimes you need those perspectives to get quality, you know.
He accurate about that?
I mean, but they broke up.
They broke up, but I think sometimes inevitably you almost need to break up to grow.
I guess in some situations.
If had John not, you know, tragically passed, they might have came back together. We don't know that.
Oh, they probably would have.
Yeah, so.
Too much money in that.
Oh,
Too much time, blood, sweat, and tears invested in that.
oh yeah.
Yeah. But you never. John Lennon's one of those guys. You never really know what would have happened with him. That's always one of those interesting guys. Like there's people that, well, you can assume this would have happened or that would have happened, but like you really have no idea where that dude's art was going to take it.
And I think about that with Tupac a lot, and you know, Biggie a lot. Like, would they have become LL Cool J, go into movies and all this good stuff and fall off musically, or would they be Jay-Z and put out album after album after album after album, and it's like, what do you get?
Or like Master P.
Or Master P, you know.
Or like
Owning everything.
Yeah, it's or Dame Dash.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Dame Dash was another one. I mean, was it driving me that crazy?
I mean, I just wanted to set up the chessboard right so I can rest my hands.
Here
I
we
just wanted to do that.
Don't you
Here we go.
If I'd have done that, you definitely would be like, "What the hell are you doing, Brandon?" I mean, really.
I mean, I'm trying. I like to rest my hands. I like to rest my arms on the table. That's just what I like to do.
All right. Hey, you know what? Everett's doing jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm doing a.
Look at his face. That's the look.
No, that's tough. I mean, it's like one of those things where it's. I would never want a man. I like to watch but I don't want to like.
What are you saying?
I wouldn't want to be grappled with. Don't touch me.
You're a basketball player. You're such a basketball
it's like,
player.
that's why I stopped playing football.
You are
don't touch
such
me.
a basketball player.
Leave
No,
me
that's
alone.
a basketball
I did
player
it.
shit right
So I
there.
did it to get in better shape because
that would do it for you. Oh my
it's
goodness.
a 42 day challenge. So I would do beginner jiu-jitsu for like the next 42 days, but I had 3 classes a week.
Okay.
So
and he's going to do a diet.
So I'm going to do a diet too. So I'm starting that. Starts around June 11th, then it goes. So by the end of the summer, I'm looking to be in overall just better shape. 20 pounds after it's all done.
That'll
You know
be
what I mean?
in jiu-jitsu. That will be easy.
Oh, okay.
I think easy.
Easy?
Like you might get to that halfway.
About jiu-jitsu.
No, he said the weight part. That's why I said the weight part might be halfway through. You might be close. You know, if you like you said, you're doing the dieting and all that good stuff. That's jiu-jitsu is a tough sport.
It
I mean,
is.
boxing's a tough sport.
I've
Those
always-
contact sports are kind of like you use every muscle. You don't just use like you do weightlifting where you target things.
It's so interesting how different they are. I'm sorry.
There you go, good.
But it's so interesting how different they are too, right? Like boxing is all on your feet, rhythm, and everything like that, and grappling is just flexing and holding someone down.
But boxing's core too, because you get hit in the core and you're not ready for it.
Yeah, you're going to go down.
You're gonna go down. So that's why they train everything in boxing. It's not just I gotta have quick feet. You gotta have this. You gotta have everything going for you. So these are full body workouts. That's why I said it's not for me.
I mean, it's one of those things where I look at it like this. I always wanted to do it, but I didn't want to go into a gym where they were sitting there bullying people. It's crazy. You got people acting like drill sergeants.
Yeah.
So that's why I never did it for years. But now with, everything being the way it is and they seem more relaxed, I was like, okay, I can come in here and learn how to learn some more tools to defend myself, but also like just have a good regimen where it's like, okay, it's not like, because for example, you go to the Planet Fitnesses and stuff like that. Yeah, they got all the equipment there, but there's nothing really to motivate you. Yeah, they got coaches, but it's like,
Right.
And then the home workouts, they only go so far, but it's like if you're, like how much motivation are you going to be in the home if the television's upstairs and, there's a whole bunch of other stuff you could be doing. The drinks is right there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I need something where I'm learning and at the same time, I'm getting a good exercise in. So I felt like jiu-jitsu was the way to go. And I was very careful about what gym I was picking to do this 42-day challenge. So that's pretty much what I got planned.
Well, good on you, man.
That's good.
I applaud that. I just,
Ooh.
jiu-jitsu is tough. That is a tough.
I mean, if it goes well, I'm going to continue to learn.
I hope you keep going. I mean, it's like one of those things where if you have the physicality and you're long, you got tall limbs. It's like one of those things where you could be really good at it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to wrap up somebody who's got long arms and long legs. You can't keep that person down.
That might work in my favor.
Might.
This is episode 207 of Audio Airstrike. I'm Everett Hall-McNeill. Thank you for joining us. With me at this time, I have Larry Randall with me, back again for another episode. And also I have Brandon Kinion with me, back again for another episode. Many of you know him also as BK. All right, so I just wanted to kind of get into it, man. And I'm not going to doom and gloom everybody, but I'm going to just talk about two incidents. I'm going to put them together as one topic. The Robb Elementary School shooting, and then the shooting that happened in Buffalo, New York, at a Tops Friendly's market store. For Robb's elementary school shooting, 18-year-old Salvador Ronaldo Ramos fatally shot 19 students and 2 teachers and wounded 17 other people. And then we have someone by the name of Girdran, who was responsible for killing, also 18 years old, killing 10 unarmed black people in a supermarket and strategically picking and choosing race-wise who he was targeting and had the N-word literally sharpied on his rifle. I'm going to look at it like this. I'm going to just say this and I'm just be honest with you. When you hear topics like this, and I'm not going to go into the whole debate back and forth, this is what I will say. No matter what party you're with, I think it's safe to say that collectively, the politicians and the people in charge that are supposed to put laws into place to make sure that we're trying to actually make an effort to avoid this as much as possible have failed. There is a school shooting in this country that happens, I kid you not, every 2 to 4 years, there's another school shooting. Some young dude is doing it, and people and kids and teachers are getting in harm's way. And at some point, it's like, you got people 13 years old that can go to a private gun owner and get a gun. But meanwhile, they got to be 21 to start drinking, 18 or like 17 to get a license, And they have to go through a certain level of process to earn those privileges. For some reason, that does not seem in place for guns. I am not saying nobody should have their First Amendment rights, but when stuff like this is happening, there needs to be a clear, concise process. And I know people can get their HQLs and stuff like that, but you got guys that can get guns, young dudes off the street, no problem. Unregistered. So the issue that I'm having is that these politicians know this and they're not making an effort. The George Floyd Act has been talked about since Biden got into office. It has not been passed yet. Imagine if that was passed before that Buffalo shooting happened. Everybody wants to push agendas and vaccine mandates and stuff of that nature. And I'm not. And if you want to do that, okay, understand what you're getting yourself into. But when you literally hesitate and don't make an effort to put laws into place to protect the American people, how do you expect somebody to really believe in the American dream and the American values? That's bothersome to me. Larry, what are your thoughts, man?
I'm going to kind of echo what you said. I think we, as a society, have a problem with restriction, right? So with guns, and actually, let me backtrack. I'll give our condolences to the victims affected by this. But we have a problem with restriction, and I think I almost look at it like vehicles. We have vehicle control, like we have different licenses for different types of vehicles. We have different tests for different type of vehicles. And so if I, at 16, want to drive my mom's minivan, great. I can go do that, but I got to go through the process. If I want to drive a 16-wheeler, that's a different process. And I think that guns should not be restricted. Not be taken away, but they should have some sort of restriction where, all right, you can have a handgun or this or that. But, if you want to get to this series of gun, you got to prove that you can pass these steps mentally, emotionally. Whether it be seeing a therapist every year or every 6 months or whatever the case is. But we got to get to some point where we are controlling the guns and who has the guns. And like I said, I don't want the guns to be taken away because I've shot guns. I like to shoot guns. I think they're fun and they are a item of power. So I don't think that you should take them away, but there definitely needs to be some sort of restriction.
Brandon, what are your thoughts on it, man?
I think that as far as the politicians go, I feel it's very hard for them to do anything lately because I think they're always running for money. They're always promising something because I don't think they ever really stop campaigning anymore. I think that's a problem. And I think it's a problem that just keeps stemming out in all these different facets of our culture as in the United States. As far as guns go, there's so many guns out there and there's so much going on with guns. And it's a problem the way we demonize people with guns and people not using guns correctly. Because if you're always demonizing something or you're saying that we got to have gun control because of these horrible shootings, I think that's a problem because you got to teach it the correct way. When you speak about driving, like it's like driving, I think you're right because everybody really has a car, right? And the thing about it is driving, everybody has different circumstances, but most people have to go to driver's ed. They have to learn correctly. They see their friends driving. They want to learn cars from their dad. They want to learn how to change tires, how to do an oil change, how to do maintenance on it and stuff like that. With guns, we are at this place where you have to kind of teach yourself, or in some places, more rural America, they actually teach their children how to use guns, how to shoot guns, how to hunt, how to do stuff like that. And then it becomes this thing about rights, and you got your rights, I got my rights. And once we start messing with our rights, we start changing everything. Does something need to change? Of course. But we also got to look at our schools too. We got to look at the whole picture, not just guns in school, but our schools are kind of like mini prisons. When you go to college everything changes. You're in this big campus, you're moving around, you got this beautiful place. Now, we've had shootings at colleges too, Virginia Tech, whatever. I'm not saying that any place is immune, but the majority of these guys that are doing this are middle school to high school kids, right? That's who's been doing these headline shootings, with the exception of a few that are really, really mentally ill people. And the thing is, we got to look at how we're structuring them, because I feel like it used to be high school was very tribal, but then it became middle school and high school was very tribal. And we got to understand that now it's elementary school too. They're raised in this tribalism of political agendas, political theory, and it's so much a part of them at such an early age. Do I like boys? Do I like girls? Is it okay to like boys? Is it like okay to like girls? Is it okay to like guns? Is it okay to not like guns? These are things that we're putting on our children. We got to look at how we educate people, and we got to have our politicians look at the example they're supposed to show for us. It's not supposed to be you're just campaigning and voting. You're supposed to show us a path that we can get along with better. And that's the difference between our parents' generation's politicians. Like when I say parents, our grandfathers, our fathers, maybe this stuff was always going on. Maybe technology is what it is, and it's made this dialogue that was always in the closet. But, and I don't mean like that in a sexual way. I mean, it was the dialogue that was in the closet in the sense that we kept conversations in the family about guns, about how we'd learn about these things, and then the school kind of reinforced a social norm. But if we're always challenging the social norm, if politicians are always running for money, how can the merry-go-round really ever end?
Yeah, and the problem is that some people profit off the merry-go-round.
A lot of people profit off.
A lot of people profit off it. So it's that's the issue for me, is when I turn around and I see people just not making an effort to really setting something in stone and being like, look, this stops now. It's like talking to the wall with some of these politicians and even some people. And I get it, like,
and it just gets worse.
Yeah, and it gets worse.
Now we're hearing stories about how kids are being trained to hide, or they're having gunshot drills like they would fire drills.
They're having workshops. Back when we was going to school, all we had to do was a fire drill. It's the only drill we had.
Well, but there was a time in the 50s where they had there was a thought of nuclear plants. And
I'm talking about for my generation. I ain't talking about for other people.
I recall when I was younger, we had bomb drills, because bomb threats used to be the highlight of the worst thing that could happen at a school, where somebody calling a threat. All right, everybody go out to the field and we hang out, and we've had drills like that. It maybe
I remember that.
Not to the extent of, all right, hide under his desk, hide by the locker, be quiet, do this, do that, because there is a certain level of fear that also instills in young children.
It's also a thing. It creates backlash, because then people are saying, well, I don't want my kid to be a victim. I should carry a gun, and we should all run around strapped, because, even if you don't want to hold a gun, then I'm going to go shoot the bad guy and stuff like that. It creates that mentality, hero mentality. Like some people have a complex with that. They just want to be a hero. They want to have a gun. They want to die for the right thing, because they don't believe their life is living for the right thing. It's sad. You got to value in your personal essence, or your personal moral code is so distorted because we don't agree on anything.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying earlier about certain topics being, I guess, closeted or behind closed doors. We never used to discuss religion or politics anywhere outside of your close friend group or close family group, because that just was polite. That's how it used to be. You don't want to offend, if I'm Muslim, I don't want to offend the Christian. The Christian doesn't want to offend the Jewish person, or, anything to that effect. So you would just kind of, all right, I live how I live. Let's just be cool. And that's that.
But now you got people that are out there looking for reasons to be offended. Like, literally.
Well, I think we lost the ability to accept when somebody necessarily doesn't agree with everything that we agree with. We've lost the ability and the wherewithal to be like, okay, you don't agree with my opinion. That's fine. We can agree to disagree. Some people don't like that. It's either you agree with me 100% or you're my enemy. And that's such a toxic way to look at stuff. And it goes back into this because I am very, very concerned because now these kids are more aware of stuff that even more so than even we were aware of at 10, 9 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So the conversations that we were having at 9 and 10 years old are not as advanced as the conversations they're having. I'm talking to an 11-year-old and she's having a full-blown adult conversation with me. I'm like, you are not talking like a regular 11-year-old that I was used to talking to back when I was coming up. So it's totally different now because now the kids are more aware of their surroundings. They're aware that stuff is not perfect. And this is the thing I will give them a nod to. They are going to be quickly against any type of oppression against somebody else, regardless if they look differently from them. I'll give them that to a point, but I do think the one thing they need to learn better is they need to learn when somebody necessarily doesn't agree with your stance on certain things, they're not automatically your enemy. They need to get away from the tribalistic nature that is growing in this country because it is growing at a rapid pace. Truth be told, our generation is the ones that got to keep the balance because we're the bridge. We're the bridge between the older folks that the young kids really don't understand. We're the bridge between that. So we have to be the filter and be in a sense of, we also have to step in and be the educators and tell these kids, look, your stance is your stance. I totally get that. But you have to have some type of patience and respect. And I'm not saying you got to agree with everybody's opinion, but you have to be able to understand and acknowledge that in this world, not everybody is going to agree with everything that you stand for. Because everybody's coming from a different background, a different perspective. Some people didn't even grow up the same way you grew up, that sort of thing. And if you sit over there and go and say, I don't, let's say, for example, for me, I don't agree with what Brandon said about this. This man is my enemy now. For what? Because he didn't agree with you about this one thing? Like, is that the direction that we're going? I don't want that to be going that direction. Because then what's going to happen when those little kids have kids?
Well, it's just the merry-go-round. That's what you're talking about. It's just the merry-go-round where things don't get better.
But the ride has to end at some point. And it's either going to end smooth or it's going to end rough. But that merry-go-round is going to end. We've seen a lot of merry-go-rounds in the world end. Either smooth, peaceful, or rough. And the people that are currently writing that chapter are going to have to decide how you want this merry-go-round to end. Because if you let this merry-go-round end tragically and badly, I can't get mad at. I can't sit over here and get mad at the San Francisco Giants manager, who is Gabe Kapler. I can't get mad at somebody like that in baseball who's like, you know what, I don't feel like coming out for the national anthem because I just don't agree with the direction this country is headed. He has that right. There are times I feel that way. I sit back over here and I contemplate this, coming down the street. I'm like, with everything going on, and I wrote this script, right? With everything going on, if anybody told me, was like, yo, I really don't feel comfortable standing for the national anthem, I don't feel comfortable putting my hand over my heart anymore, I can't really be mad at them. Because all this stuff going on, and it seems like nobody cares, and it seems like they just putting people over profit, and nobody cares. I'm not even talking about just one particular people. I'm just talking about just American people in general. Like, I can't get mad at that. And to get into this topic more, I'm going to just read it. San Francisco Giants manager Gabe Kapler, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, won't take the field for the national anthem. As details of the elementary school shooting in Texas continue to unfold, San Francisco Giants manager Gabe Kapler on Friday wrote he is not okay with the state of the country and that he felt like a coward for not protesting the lack of delivery on the promise of what the national anthem represents. He hit the nail on the head. You think it's just going to be him? It's going to be more people that feel that way. More people are going to look at the national anthem and go, what's the point? The merry-go-round is the merry-go-round, and it can still go around. But at what cost? I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I have a different perspective on the national anthem as a whole. I'm one of those people who I can love a house when I drive past it. I don't have to love the people in the house. So it's like, excuse me. So when it's like you protest the national anthem as a whole or protest certain aspects of patriotism, I mean, I agree that everybody has the right to do as they see fit. But me personally, when I go to baseball games, when I go to basketball games, I stand up and I show respect. You know, my brother served, my uncle served, my grandfather served. So, you know, there is parts of patriotism that I feel obligated to be with. But like I said, I won't let the negative of our country affect the positive. So I try to look at it from the positive point. You know, look at us. We're all sitting at this table. I mean, I'm gonna go on a limb and say Brandon's not black. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe he is.
I don't know. Sometimes you forget.
Maybe he is. Hey, just saying. You know. I don't know that to be a fact.
Right.
But so I mean, there are positive aspects of the country, and I just choose to kind of operate within that positive space more so than the negative space.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from. That you got any thoughts on it?
I mean, my thing about the national anthem and people that protest it, right? I often think about the Olympics when they did that. I think it was 68, right? Mm-hmm. And I get it. You know, I mean, that was a interesting period in our history. And then it comes back to Kaepernick, you know, and I get it. I get why people did it, why Kaepernick did it. I read the stories about it.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but the Kaepernick part was kind of almost on the capitalism side. I think after a while, it started off with good intentions, but it became Nike's behind it.
Yeah.
When Nike gets behind it, it's automatically capitalism. And it sweeps from protest to capitalism real fast.
Something kind of different,
yeah.
You know. And then there's this, and I understand he's upset and people want to do that, but in my heart, a couple of things based on him on this in this national protest thing. Like, you gotta agree that you're a country and you're a team, and you want to be a country and a team. And I feel like that's what standing for the anthem and even having the national anthem is. There's a lot of countries that have gone through multiple identity changes and they don't have that. Like, it's like you got to be happy for what you have, because you could lose that and then it could be worse, you know? So that's how I feel about that. Then he talks about this promise of America. And that's political language, in my opinion, because what is America promising you? It's like, I was born in America. I'm promised this. I'm promised that. I mean, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, are these things promised to us? Is that what we're talking about? Because it's like he's protesting the situation that America's in after there's a school shooting of elementary school, but you're promised guns and the right to bear arms and all this, and it's like this constant contradiction. I believe standing for the pledge of I'm standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, patriotism, believing in certain things that, like the Constitution, Bill of Rights. I think these are all things we should agree to, or we should try to agree to. And if we don't agree on that, we really need to figure out where in all of these rights or whatever we do agree. Like, because that's kind of important in terms of the promise of America, and America's not living up to what she promised us. You know what? Talk is cheap. You know, I mean, you ain't really promised anything. Some people are crippled. They weren't promised legs. Some people have different situations. You got to work with what you got to make it better.
And I'm gonna add one more thing to that. I think the protest portion of it, right? You know, the not going to the national anthem or not standing for the national anthem, or I would take it to social media, the Facebook posts. Those are just gestures. I think if you want to affect real change, you have to put in action. So it's easy to go, you know, RIP children of Robb Elementary, you know, RIP George Floyd. You know, it's easy to just do that, but if there's no action behind it, these protests, they're not really doing anything.
It's the same way it's easy to stand up for the flag and pretend you're some American when you don't believe in certain values that are entrusted into you.
So, and then, well, you know, and then in the same point, right? So we go back to the protests of the 60s, you know, where with sit-ins and, you know, boycotts. The boycotts are action. That's where you affect money, dollars. Now, somebody could argue that if I make a Facebook post, man, maybe these people won't, you know, use this website, won't go to this team event or won't go. But to me, it's usually more on the empty side than the actual action side.
Well, there's strength in numbers. It's one thing if the three of us put out a tweet saying boycott this because I went through this. But if a public figure that shares the same values as you shares it and has a bigger audience than you, then you have a mobilization train going. Stuff is going in a very upward direction because now somebody is behind you. And that's what I mean, man. Like, there has to be a collective of people saying, this is wrong. This is what we want changed. And if you're not going to change it, we're going to respectfully ask that you step aside because you're not really looking out for the American people. But it can't be just one person. It can't be just two people. It can't just be a state. It has to be multiple states. It has to be multiple regions in the country saying we are tired of this and you better change something or we will vote you out. The problem, I'm going to just be 100% honest. I look at everybody that is currently in office suspect to me. I don't care what party they're in. I don't care what party they're in. You let all this happen, didn't pass certain bills, didn't even. It's easy to say thoughts and prayers. We do that same go around every time this happens. But if something policy don't get changed, I don't want your thoughts and prayers. Faith without works is dead to me.
Well, politicians they're nothing more than prostitutes in suits. You know, it's one of those things where they're going to dance however their people tell them to dance. So if I'm, you know, Mitch McConnell and I'm from, I don't even know what state he's from. Kentucky. Okay, that makes sense.
I think it's Kentucky.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Kentucky is very fitting if it is. If I'm Mitch McConnell and Kentucky, I'm gonna go off on another limb and say that they don't particularly care about Black lives or, you know, school shootings or whatever the case is.
I haven't heard of a school shooting in Kentucky yet.
Well, knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Hey, I got a question for you, right? You were talking about the protests and you were talking about leaders and strength in numbers. I think what's weak about today's society compared to our parents or our grandparents is when we say we're going to do something, we sign a petition or something like that. I haven't seen any type of real action that defines our what we want to do. Example is like gas is skyrocketing at inflationary rates. Same with housing right now. If people would just come together and you know what, on Mondays we ain't buying gas, and it's gonna really hurt your business not making any money on Mondays, or like what else was I talking about? Housing. We ain't buying no more houses. They're too expensive. We ain't buying no cars that are that expensive. And in some places we have seen this kind of movement recently with all the people that quit their jobs, you know, because like a lot of people, but that was like organic. Nobody was saying everybody quit your job. No, that was like organic. People were like, you know what, I got value. And that was really on capitalism because you fired everybody pretty much. You know what I'm saying? With the pandemic and the lockdowns and the businesses that couldn't keep people. So you put everybody out there, and then people started making money, and they were like, okay, well, we're ready. Some people who were smart, they were like, you know what, we're going to pay people right. And their business got up faster than the people who were like, I want the best labor for a nickel. Those people didn't bounce back as strong. So that was kind of organic. But we let them just destroy all of these other things in our lives, like gas. I mean, I'm using gas and housing as a metaphor, but you can really look at schooling, education. And this is where it comes back to this political thing, because our political leaders, they ain't rallying nobody to do something about it. They're just a bunch of yes men saying yes to whatever back deals they're making behind and saying yes to whatever's up front of them on their campaign rallies and stuff like that. And voting someone out of office, you can do that every 2 to 4 years. I mean, but that's not going to give you change. When they did that bus boycott stuff, you know, that was, you're going to go out of business if you don't start doing the right thing. That was, and you know what? I feel like that's the price they put, that's the thing they put on us all the time. We got to conform. We got to wear this to have a certain job. We got to have a certain type of language that we speak to have a certain type of job. We got to be extremely different, like some abnormal, strange thing. I don't want to be a freak of nature to be successful, and I don't want to be just some yes guy either. I want to be an individual, and I believe we're promised that under the American thing. But we got to have discipline to claim this, man.
Yeah, but it boils down to, I understand people want discipline. I understand that there's certain things that happen, but there needs to be an example. And if you're in a country where there's very few examples, where do you think most of the people going to go? Oh, I have to lie to get ahead? I'm going to do that. Oh, I got to cheat to get ahead? I'm going to do that. You playing nice and morals is not getting me to where I want to go. So now I got to lie and cheat to get to where I want to go. That's what the politicians are teaching the last 3 to 4 generations. It's sad, but it's the truth.
And it's always just a little bit at a time, you know. We didn't just get here. I mean, Columbine started in 98. You know what I'm saying?
99, yeah.
99. 2009, 2019, 21, 22. So it's 22 years, right? 22 years, 22, yeah. 23 years. You know, my math might be a little off. But I'm saying that's how long, inch by inch, it's gone from Columbine, freak nature thing, never thought we'd see that again, to is a normal occurrence. This is what gets CNN really good ratings, so we're going to bleed the hell out of this story. I mean, it's horrible. And then you got like the whole list of all the people that survived. Like you have the Virginia Tech survivor, you got the Sandy Aurora survivor. I mean, these people are making careers out of pretty much talking about their survival story. I get it. If you have a story, please by all means say it. But it's sad when our society is just throwing a cycle like this.
We are becoming a trauma capitalist society.
Corporate capitalist.
You can add that. You can say that too. We profit off of people's trauma. That is what slowly but surely America has become. I feel bad for American people. I feel bad for the people that defended this country, because these people have sacrificed their livelihood, their well-being, and what do they have to show for it? A country going in a backward direction at times. There's flashes of good moments that make you go, okay, there's some glimmer of hope, but there's like times where it's like, why are y'all doing this stuff knowing daggone well this is not right for the American people? Like, it's treacherous to me, because I'm sitting there, I'm going, you know how traumatic this is going to be. You know what this is going to do, and you still do it? I just don't understand it. We are literally in Memorial Day weekend right now. The whole purpose of Memorial Day weekend is to honor those that have fought this country, that are not here to get their flowers. Whole point of Memorial Day. They made that sacrifice. Look at the different wars throughout all the different years. They made that sacrifice to have the country end up like this, where people are more divided than united, where people are more focused on tribalism than unity. It is disheartening because I have seen and I personally know soldiers that have passed on, that have tried their best to leave a legacy, support their family. Their kids are growing up without them there. And now they have to grow up in a society where they are looking at everybody, their parents, politicians, celebrities, that are teaching them a very disjointed way to get to success and leave a legacy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it bothers me because I know there should be better. I know this shouldn't be the way that we act like this. This is not what our American people passed away for. They passed away for freedom, unity, and liberty. And I'm going to say this, right? There are people that fought for this country, loved this country, died for this country, and they didn't get that same love from this country back. And they still made the sacrifice. For generations and their lineage to turn around and be caught up and swept in this stupid merry-go-round because you want to get something for profit? Man, it's goofy. That's all I got to say. It's freaking goofy. It's freaking goofy. And I'm not trying to bring nobody's mood down, but it's just one of the things, man, at some point, like, where is the education at? Where is the sense of morals and ethics at? Like, when is that going to happen? Like, we got grown men, they got less sense than the teenagers in schools. Grown men can't figure out strategies. Grown men can't walk with a certain level of integrity. Grown women lying through their teeth to other women. It's crazy. I'm not asking you to give me some fairy tale land. Tell me what's really going on. Don't sit over here. If I see the bridge burning, don't tell me, oh, they're just restructuring the bridge. The bridge is freaking burning and it's about to go down. Just tell me. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, thank you for everybody who serves in the military. I'm going to extend that to paramedics, police officers. I know that's not popular, but police officers, firemen, and now these days teachers, for, doing a probably a very much underpaid service for your country and for your society. So, I mean, I think that's the important part of this holiday, of course. But as far as the country and the metaphor you use of the bridge is burning, I like to always remember, I mean, I hate to be Mr. Positive all the time, because I do see what you're saying, of course. But relatively speaking, we're a young country. We're not China with 10,000 years of experience. I'm sure if they had, if they kept an accurate history book, I'm sure there's probably some periods where they didn't look the greatest. And I mean, some people would say that's probably even right now. So I think there's still room for growth. I mean, we're still a baby in this thing, if you want to call us that. But yeah, I do think that we definitely have to take a second, and think about the people that this is truly for, as far as our servicemen and women who didn't make it back to their families, their friends, and, and then like the ones you said, that the ones that served, and they might as well not come back because they weren't respected on the level of other servicemen and women. So that's my thoughts on Memorial Day.
I'm sure a lot of families of veterans, a lot of people that lost their family members in the wars and such. I'm sure they probably think like you, Everett. Like they're probably always kind of confused. Like what did they die for and all that. I always like to think of it. What did they live for? What was the reasons why to move forward? You know, and I think that's a really good thing because it's hard sometimes to get over sad stuff. It'll eat you alive. That one thing, that one time you lost. You don't remember, like you always remember the times you lost, and I mean that as a metaphor and literal. You know, friends you've lost, you remember them the most when you look back at your childhood. You know, there's a lot of people that faded in and out, but the people that you lost, that you remember them along the way, and especially when it comes to the military, because they sign on willing to make that sacrifice, but no one really knows who's going to be the one to have to make that sacrifice. And then you find out it's got to be hard, but you got to believe in the reasons they did live and the good things that can happen moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely get everybody's sentiment. You know, it's and I was thinking about this, so it's one of those things where I just wanted to put it out there because I was thinking about this for a long time, for like 2 weeks straight, of just a bunch of emotions. Like I've been feeling this way for the past 3 years. I've said it on this show. I was like, I respect everybody's opinion, but I don't feel so patriotic anymore. For the last 2 to 3 years, I've worn all black. I don't ever wear all black. I wear all black on every 4th of July. For that reason.
But you've had a pretty tough 2 years too, 3 years. And I mean, that's another thing. Like we were talking about the kids earlier today, and I'm shocked sometimes when I see the amount of homework my daughter does. Like I don't even understand how she would even have time to do a sport. I used to want her to do sports like that. I still do, but like I was reading something by Tom Brady recently. Well, it said it was Tom Brady. I don't know for a fact. It was talking about sports and how, like, they have those teams that parents pay for that go traveling all over the world to play like 10, 12 sports, and they're expensive. And one of the things that stood out to me, and I think it kind of parallels this, I guess, in a way, is we as adults, we want to tell these kids what position they're playing and all the rules and all of this stuff and make it all about your achievements and not your participation. And in doing that, we suck the fun out of the game. We suck the fun out of that. That's A. B, if we're on these teams, we're making our whole family schedule around you playing the game. I'm not saying that a kid shouldn't have their family have their schedule revolve around them, but it's all based on whether or not you win or lose a baseball game or get a position. All right. And if you're talking scholarships and stuff like that, there's a lot of people that just kids that are groomed to play sports, they starting to get burned out by the time they get high school. And there's other kids that just start playing sports in high school and it's so fun to them and they excel and go to college. You know what I'm saying? Is he more promised a future than the kid that did 20 all these extracurricular sports things? You gotta look at what your promises is. I mean that. So we suck the fun out of these kids' lives. We put all this stuff on them, and then it comes back, and a tragedy or something happens, which makes us question our American values, which seems is supposed to be the exact opposite, right, Everett? We're supposed to have American values that we pass on to our children that make it more fun than, say, communist Russia or communist China or whatever country. We're not supposed to be that, but we're becoming what we hate. Isn't that what you like to say?
Yeah, we're becoming the very thing that we hate. And it's kind of rough, man. I just hope that, we take time, especially with this Memorial Day, especially with this Memorial Day. Okay. Yeah. So I, at the end of the day, I don't want this country to become the very thing that we hate. I don't want this country to become a laughing stock within the world. And I know there's been some incidents where we were damn near pretty close. But you know, at the end of the day, man, like, there's way too many people, soldiers, citizens that have made sacrifices to make this country what it is, and we need to go in an upward direction. So I'm urging, at the close of this, I'm urging every politician, every citizen, every American, if you call yourself an American, please look out for somebody, educate somebody, embrace somebody that does not look like you. This is a melting pot. If we all Americans and we all believe in freedom, liberty, and everything like that, and unity, we really need to start acting that way. I don't care what your party is. I didn't ask what your party was. I didn't ask if you're right wing or left wing or extreme this or extreme that. I just ask that you have some grace, have some honor, some decency, and respect for somebody who is an American that necessarily does not look like you, and hopefully that will invoke some type of change. With that being said, this has been another edition of Audio Airstrike. Happy Memorial Day to all of you. Please take what we're saying and please apply that to your everyday life as an American citizen. And even if you don't identify as an American citizen, some of the stuff that we're talking about, take the nuggets from that and apply that to your life. First of all, I want to thank Larry for stopping through. Always a pleasure to have you being a guest. Brandon, thank you for stopping through. You know, I always enjoy having you on, and it's always an awesome time to have you guys on and talk about stuff like this.
Or do you enjoy having them on?
If I didn't enjoy having him on, trust me, I would have told it to his face.
The frenemy continues.
I would have told it to his face. I definitely would have told it to his face, so he would know.
A little more fun.
I would have gave him a call to be like, you know, I don't like you on the show, right? You know, we have to pick a different guest, right?
Bring me out of the show. Hey, you know, I just wanted to bring you on the show just to tell you straight up, man, face to face, I do not like you. I find you neurotic and annoying. Just go through the list for an hour. Don't even let him talk. But no, I'm not finished. I got some.
And another thing.
On the positive end.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is too funny. Well, you guys have a good rest of your Memorial Day, and we will check back with you again with another episode going into June. Y'all take care. Have a good one.